Hey, what's up guys, it's Phil here from TechSmart, and today we're going to do a full comparison of the Galaxy S6 Edge against the iPhone 6. So looking at the hardware on the Galaxy S6 Edge, you have a 5.1 inch display on the front, your front facing camera. On the right hand side you have a sleep wake button. Left hand side you have your volume rockers. Right along the top you have the IR blaster and SIM card slot. On the bottom you have your single speaker as well as your 3.5mm headphone jack and micro USB charging port. On the back you have a 16 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization, two-tone flash, as well as Samsung's heart rate monitor. The phone itself is made out of aluminum and glass. You have glass on the front and back, so similar design to the Nexus 4 and the older iPhone 4, which is actually pretty interesting. It definitely feels a lot more fragile, but again, very premium at the same time. The iPhone 6 has a 4.7 inch display on the front with a front-facing camera. The right hand side has the sleep wake button as well as your SIM card slot. On the left hand side you have a volume rocker and mute switch. Nothing's on the top. On the bottom you have your lightning port, speaker, as well as your 3.5mm headphone jack. Flipping it over to the back you have an 8 megapixel camera and two-tone flash. And the phone itself is also made out of aluminum and glass, and as like every iPhone made before, it has pretty great build quality. However, the Galaxy S6 Edge definitely does rival it in this case. Looking at specs on both of the phones, the Galaxy S6 Edge has an octa-core Exynos 7420 processor. It's clocked at 2.1 GHz. You also have the Mali T760 MP8 graphics inside, along with 3 GB of RAM, and you have 32 GB of storage, with sadly no micro SD, which Samsung's got a lot of flack for not including that one. The iPhone 6 has the dual-core A8 chip clocked at 1.4 GHz, 64-bit processor as well. The PowerVR GX 6450 graphics, 1 GB of RAM, and then you're going to have a few different storage options, 16, 64, and 128, and again, no micro SD card slot available. Now, specs aside, both phones are great to look at. The Galaxy S6 Edge has that 5.1 inch display like I mentioned. The resolution is actually 2560 by 1440, which has a pixel density of 577 pixels per inch. It's a Super AMOLED display, which, if you're not familiar with that term, basically whenever the screen has to display the color black, it actually shuts off that portion of the display. It allows for super dark contrast in colors. It also allows to save a lot of battery life, especially if you use a lot of dark elements like dark wallpapers and such. It has Gorilla Glass 4 on the front and back, which is supposedly twice as durable as the Gorilla Glass 3 found on older devices. We went ahead and did some drop tests on the Galaxy S6 Edge, so you can go check those out if you'd like. The quality of the display is super bright, super sharp. I've always been a fan of AMOLED displays. They're really nice to look at. They can be a bit unrealistic just because there's that over dramatic contrast in coloring. However, I think it looks pretty great. The iPhone 6 is a 4.7 inch display. The resolution is 1334 by 750. This is their Retina display, so it's not actually full HD. It allows for 326 pixels per inch. It's an IPS display, so that's going to give it a little bit more realistic coloring. At the same time, the display itself is scratch resistant. However, we all know that doesn't necessarily hold up to too much. But as far as quality goes, it looks great. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Galaxy S6 Edge has the better display. It's sharper. I do like the AMOLED display a little bit more on it. You also have the two curves coming off the side, which is pretty awesome as well. Now, both phones are running two totally different operating systems. You have Android 5.0 on the Galaxy S6 Edge, and then iOS 8 on the iPhone. So the Galaxy S6 Edge, along with it running Lollipop, you actually have Samsung custom overlay called TouchWiz running on top. It's actually really snappy. They've changed a lot and really optimized it to work with the newer operating system. I'm a fan. Personally, though, I would like stock Android on it. However, I'll take what they give me, and the optimizations to using the edges on both sides of the phone is pretty great. You have these features that allow you to swipe in from the side to view favorite contacts. Also, when your phone's sitting face down, you can have a color bar run along the side to let you know when somebody's calling you. It's pretty nice, and it's just another way to really personalize your phone. The iPhone 6 is obviously the more simple of the two. iOS 8 has never had too many thrills going on with it. It's pretty basic, very easy to use, and you can really give the phone to anybody. They'll pick it up and know what they're doing. Now, both phones do have fingerprint scanners on them, so security is great on both devices. Samsung finally took over the same mechanism that Apple's been doing, so you just press your finger on the home button and it'll go ahead and unlock. You no longer have to swipe it like you had to do with the Galaxy S5. Now, to say which one I think is better, it's really a toss-up. Again, it's Android versus iOS, so it's not really comparing apples to apples, no pun intended. So you really have to kind of make your judgment call on this. I've always said this before, but Android phones are great to get a lot of work done. They're super powerful devices. They're much better for multitasking. And then the iPhone, on the other hand, is a little bit simpler, a little bit easy to use for like a first smartphone user or somebody that just doesn't want anything like overly complex. It's a pretty easy phone to use, but at the same time, Galaxy S6 Edge is super simple and anybody can really pick it up and know what they're doing. So cameras. The Galaxy S6 Edge has a 16 megapixel camera with optical image stabilization. It also has an f1.9 aperture. Shoots 4K video at 30 frames a second and has a 5 megapixel front-facing camera. The iPhone 6 has the smaller 8 megapixel camera with an f2.2 aperture. It shoots 1080p video at 60 frames a second, as well as slow motion video. It has a 1.2 megapixel front-facing camera. So in some real-world testing, the cameras are pretty comparable on both of them. I think the iPhone 6 more consistently takes a better photo. However, the Galaxy S6 Edge is definitely no slouch, and it has a pretty outstanding camera on here. That really means a lot. Personally, I've said this before, I do use an iPhone 6 on a daily basis, and a lot of that reasoning is because the camera is so great. So for any phone to really be able to rival the iPhone 6's camera in such a positive way, it's definitely a huge deal. And the Galaxy S6 Edge, without a doubt, does that. Images are super sharp, and being that it's 16 megapixels and not 8, you can actually crop in on a photo after the fact and still have a lot more area to work with, which is really nice. And the 4K video is definitely a pretty awesome feature to have. Next up are benchmarks. So we went ahead and ran Geekbench on both devices. The Galaxy S6 Edge scored 1139 on the single core score, as well as 4057 on the multi-core. The iPhone 6 scored 1613 on the single core and 2883 on the multi-core. The Galaxy S6 Edge really blew the water out on the Antutu test. It scored 58,691, while the iPhone 6 scored 46,232. And on the GFX benchmark, the Galaxy S6 Edge scored 699 at 11 frames a second, and the iPhone 6 scored 1641 at 26.5 frames a second. So last up on this comparison is going to be the battery. Of course, if your phone's dead, it's not useful in any way. The Galaxy S6 Edge has a 2600 milliamp hour battery. The iPhone 6 has an 1810 milliamp hour battery. Both phones are going to get you through a full day's use. However, the Galaxy S6 Edge, again, is going to win this one. Samsung includes this awesome feature called Ultra Power Saving Mode. Basically, it strips the phone down at a certain percentage or whenever you turn it on to really limit everything that the phone can do. It can squeeze a few hours out of just a few percent battery. It's pretty great and definitely one of the most helpful features that manufacturers are starting to include on their devices. So which phone should you buy? Now, the Galaxy S6 Edge comes in at $299 and it comes in black, white, green, and blue. The iPhone 6 starts at $200, comes in space gray, silver, and gold. Now, if you didn't notice this whole time we're talking about the Galaxy S6 Edge, if you want all of these features and want to save $100, the Galaxy S6 offers the identical specifications, identical camera. The only difference is you're obviously not going to get those two curves off the sides of the display. That's $199. So if that seems more appealing, obviously that's going to be the phone for you. However, price aside, I do think the Galaxy S6 Edge is going to take the cake on this one. It has more features over the iPhone 6. The camera is definitely more than comparable, and I think it's a pretty outstanding phone. The build quality is definitely very remarkable coming from a Samsung product, and I like to see this new direction that Samsung's going in. Anyways, guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel, check out all of our social links in the description below, as well as check out all the other content and coverage we've been doing on the Galaxy S6 Edge, S6, HTC One M9. Check it all out. It's on the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.